There was one manager that left a huge impression on Martí Cifuentes. His name, Johan Cruyff. Cifuentes grew up in the town of Sant Cugat del Vallès, just outside of Barcelona, at the time of Cruyff's dazzling Barca team. When Cruyff came back as a manager in the late 1980s, his impact was like no other. It wasn't just his influence on results, but also a shift in mentality and identity too. Marti has said it himself, he felt the joy of the Cruyff way of playing. His philosophy gave individuals the tools to express themselves and play with a real abundance of freedom. Martí Cifuentes started coaching when he was just 20 years of age and has now managed in Norway, Denmark, Sweden, England and his native country, Spain. Following stints as a youth coach at Ajax, Terrassa and at Millwall, Marti's first jobs in senior management were in the Spanish 3rd and 2nd division. But it wasn't until 2018 when Cifuentes became the head coach of Norwegian side Sandefjord. The club he led to promotion in his first full season, losing just 3 games and accumulating 65 points. Following a successful time in Denmark with Aalborg BK, Hanneby convinced Marti to return to Sweden. The Spaniard helped the club reach 3rd in 2022, a domestic cup final and a place in the UEFA Conference League. But it was then Queen's Park Rangers who came calling next. When Marti arrived at Loftus Road, the team had only picked up 2 wins from their opening 14 championship matches and were 6 points adrift inside the bottom 3. And considering Gareth Ainsworth was his predecessor, the appointment of the Catalan coach was probably deemed as one of the biggest stylistic changes in English football. The transformation needed to be pretty impressive. Cifuentes actually told Coach's Voice recently, tactics are down to the players, in the sense that he's always trying to adapt to the skills of the players he has at his disposal. There's no doubt he's a coach with strong principles, but Marti has also learned to be flexible. It would have been impossible to succeed being stubborn in the same way of working every country he's managed. It's taken adaptability and a strong understanding of culture and context. I'm sure Marti knew about QPR's rich history in front-footed football and technical players, but this brand of football was going to take time, and it certainly was going to take a sense of strong adaptability. Now, these are the QPR average positions from Gareth Ainsworth's last game in charge. They lost the match 2-1 and had to wait 4 games for their next championship win, which came under, yet you guessed it, our friend Martí Cifuentes. And these are the average positions from that win, and already you can see some glaringly obvious structural changes to the side. For a start, they moved from a back 5 to a back 4, and there's a real increase in the number of bodies centrally, something that our man Marti is a big fan of, and we'll come back to explain that further later. Finally, these are the average positions from over a year later. QPR's win over Hull City in January this year. This time we see even further developments to the structure of Marti's team. The players are robust in their compact shape. The central areas are well occupied with smaller gaps between players to increase passing opportunities, and importantly, the team moves as one. Marti has said, in his opinion, the most important part of football is time. Time gives teams the space and the quality to execute things at a high level. Essentially, if players are in the best situations at the best times, the chance of a positive outcome is increased. Now, hold that thought, we'll come back to that later. We're going to start at the back, and specifically the role of the fullbacks in a Marti team, because they're pretty fascinating indeed. Often, Martí Cifuentes wants his fullbacks to stay fairly narrow, usually asking at least one of them to invert in possession to increase bodies in the middle of the pitch. This is QPR's passing network from their away win over Plymouth recently, and it captures this point perfectly. Both fullbacks, Kenneth Powell and Jimmy Dunne, have stayed fairly narrow as expected, but have also played a crucial role in possession. As the thickness of the passing lines would suggest, both Powell and Dunne attempted the most QPR passes on the day, completing a total of 10 progressive passes combined. Remember, these aren't attacking midfielders or natural creators. These are defenders. I want to show you this next, and if you need to pause the video and guess which player this shot map belongs to, then definitely do that. Take a moment, because it's QPR's right back, Jimmy Dunne. Don't bother counting. That's 41 shots and 15 on target. That's comfortably the most for a fullback in the Championship. 13 more than QPR's most used striker. Whilst we've established that Kenneth Powell's role on the left side is slightly more systematic, Jimmy Dunne's is utter carnage. You can see there isn't an inch of the right flank he hasn't covered this season. But even more interestingly, look how often he finds himself inside the opposition penalty area. This is Jimmy Dunne's most recent goal, and I think it captures his strengths, but also the point we made earlier about Marty wanting his players in the best situations at the best times to increase the chance of a positive outcome. The ball has flown in the direction of Jimmy Dunne just outside the opposition penalty box. He doesn't win the header himself, but he has sandwiched himself in between two Watford players. The Watford defender heads it away, but only to Chair, who's just outside the box further here. Look at him as soon as the aerial duel is over. Jimmy Dunne is desperate to get himself inside the opposition box and cause a physical overload. You can see he's spinning this defender and trying to wriggle his way into this space here. And you can see this is Jimmy Dunne here, slightly blurry, but you get the gist of it. He's got himself at the back post to create this physical overload. So many defenders in this position would stay put. They've done their initial job. They've been a nuisance. The ball has stayed in the possession of QPR. They now make their way back to their fullback position, but not Jimmy Dunne. He has one idea in his head, and that's to cause havoc offensively. And with his 6'2" frame and constant threat in the air, having him in the opposition box only enhances QPR's attacking threat. So far this season, Jimmy Dunne has racked up 90 touches in the opposition box, seeing him sit in the top 2% for Championship fullbacks. And come back to the shot map. Strikers would be jealous of that. He is an offensive threat at right back. It's now time we move up the pitch and discuss the role of the midfield. But once again, in classic Marty style, it's bloody interesting. There's so many talking points. Usually QPR set up in a 3-man midfield with a single pivot and 2 attacking eights, usually asymmetrical with one higher and the other slightly deeper. And as you can see here, that's exactly the case. This is another passing network, this time from QPR's game against Blackburn, and it shows exactly that midfield shape. It also shows us something else, the use of wide triangles. These triangles are the relationship between the fullback, the winger, and the attacking midfielder on both sides. Often the fullback and the midfielder rotates, allowing the natural creator to become the base of the triangle to increase the opportunity to break lines in the early stages of play. This screenshot is an example of just that. Sam Field has dropped to become almost the deepest QPR player in build-up, whilst fullback Powell has rotated inside to become another corner of the triangle. You can actually see the final point of the triangle because Chair isn't in shot, and that's because he stayed really wide, almost hugging the touchline to keep full width. Sam Field's personal heat map from this very game against Luton emphasises the point about his role further. You can see the area he occupies the most is at the so-called base of the build-up triangle. Field made 23 passes in this game, 6 of which were into the final third. And if you think about it, if the intention is to get the ball into the most dangerous positions as early as possible, you'd think your best ball players would be able to do this most comfortably. And at QPR, that's definitely the case. As we move into the forward areas of the pitch, I think it's the right time we introduce something called the positional game. Positional play is a footballing principle that ensures players take up positions to create numerical advantages in passing triangles or diamonds with the intention of progressing possession through the thirds. Essentially, the pitch is split into zones, as you can see on the screen now, with each player assigned to a specific plane of the pitch suited to their strengths. Players are always encouraged to be ready to move based on the movement of a teammate, creating constant rotations that aims to focus and disorganise the opposition, something that Martí Cifuentes is actively adopting at QPR today. Marty uses the principle strong to weak, where they look to overload one side of the pitch and accelerate on the other. This all comes from tempo and the speed the ball is played. By dragging the majority of bodies to one side, theoretically the chance of catching the opposition off guard on the other is increased. This is where we come back to our old friend Johan Cruyff, who is all about possession of the ball itself, not really being of interest. He wanted his players to understand that in order to keep it and move the ball towards the opposition goal, the ball has to be moved and moved and moved. This is an example from QPR's recent win over Preston. You can see in this first screenshot just how many bodies are crowded in such a tight area of the pitch. That's 5 QPR players and 7 Preston players. Naturally, the Preston team are going to shift over in an attempt to prevent QPR's overload, but they're forgetting one thing. The intention of Marty's team from this position is to exploit the space here on the opposite side. The question is just how quickly can QPR move the ball into this space, take advantage of QPR's confused backline and create an opportunity on goal? The answer, just 6 seconds. To explain the role of a Martí Cifuentes front line, I need to take you back to 1988, the year that Johan Cruyff became manager of Barcelona. Upon arrival, Johan Cruyff inherited Gary Lineker, a phenomenal, albeit very traditional, centre-forward, and it didn't take long for Cruyff to realise his philosophy needed something different. At the time, it was deemed controversial, but eventually proved absolutely genius. Michael Laudrup's long-lost false nine role was one of Cruyff's greatest innovations. He needed a player with more involvement in build-up, who could impact the game away from the penalty box too. Michael Laudrup, definitely not. They do share the same first name. It's Michael Frey. He does play a crucial role, though, under Martí Cifuentes, and it's only fair we give him his flowers. Marti admitted himself he wants his striker to drag opposition defenders into uncomfortable positions and create space for other attackers to enter the most threatening areas of the pitch. And against Plymouth recently, I think I found just the clip. QPR's right winger in this game, Smith, has received the ball on the right-hand side and is now looking to drive into this central space here. Michael Frey has already clocked Smith's plan and begins to make a brilliant sacrificial run away from the space, totally dragging Plymouth's number 5 with him. You can see in this screenshot, Frey's selfless movement has worked. The Plymouth backline is stretched and confused, with now a clear path for Smith to run into. Now, this example doesn't actually lead to a goal, but the ball does ironically fall to Frey, who sees his shot denied. I'll show you another real game scenario in just a moment, but I also think his personal heat map does a great job of visualising his unpredictable movement in the various planes of the pitch. In fact, he spent more time in the middle third of the pitch this season, averaging 15.6 touches per 90, whereas in the attacking third, he's averaged 12.6. The bloke is bloody everywhere. This is one of my favourite Michael Frey moments of the season so far, and it totally captures his all-round role brilliantly. By Michael Frey dropping to look for the ball, the Luton backline are stuck in two minds. If you look at the body language of Holmes, as soon as Frey receives the ball, he doesn't know whether to hold his position or step onto him and engage. He does neither, and Frey drops an absolutely stunning ball over to the running Smith. Within seconds, Frey has played a crucial role in transitioning the ball from back to front, with QPR now in a great position to cause a threat on goal. This screenshot is all about the body language and the attitude of Michael Frey. He's played the brilliant pass, but his job isn't over. He wants to get himself in the box and cause a problem at the back post. Nobody is getting in his way. And there he is, at the back post, winning his duel against Walters comfortably, ready to score. 10 seconds from starting play in his own half, he's got himself inside the penalty box and finished the move himself. That's pretty damn impressive. The final Johan Cruyff principle we need to talk about is the importance of creativity and flexibility, epitomised heavily in his very own total football concept. And once again, Martí Cifuentes is no different. Players are encouraged to express themselves, take risks, and to think creatively. So far this season, QPR have racked up 60 big chances, already matching their entire tally from last season. One of their biggest contributors, Ilias Chair. As his season heat map shows, the Moroccan has operated as a left winger for the majority of the season, providing that crucial full width that we spoke heavily about earlier. It also shows Chair's tendency to drift inside an impact zone 14, a decisive zone for shots on goal and dangerous passes just in front of the opposition's box. In Chair, Marti has the best of both worlds, a player that can comfortably play out wide, but also has the technical gift to influence the most dangerous areas centrally too. I come back to the line from earlier. If players are in the best situations at the best times, the chances of a positive outcome are increased. Chair's offensive qualities absolutely epitomises exactly that. And with all that being said, it's England, not Spain. It's the Championship, not La Liga. And it's 2025 and certainly not the 1980s. But Marti's idolisation of Johan Cruyff's footballing principles are absolutely evident. Until next time, I've been Jack Ward, and I'll see you very soon.